This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, guys? Ricky Widmer here, and you're listening to the Primetime Podcast right here on Most Valuable Podcast. I am joined via Discord, not next to me, not across the table from me, via Discord today with Sean Anderson.
Hello there.
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
I kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I kind of peaked on your name there, or my voice cracked on Oster. But I'm joined with Sean and Dave. We are back for a third mock draft. Coronavirus cannot keep us down. We are going to keep the mock drafts going. And if you are new to how we do a mock draft, we split it up into 3 segments, 1 through 10, 11 through 20. Had to do the math there for a second. 21 through 30. 1 through 10 is every team. Then 11 through 20, we kind of pick some guys, and we do the same thing for 21 through 30. Before we get into everything, first off, thank you to everyone watching us live here on Twitch, twitch.tv/mostvaluablepodcast. If you're listening to us on YouTube right now or on podcast services around the world and want to watch us live, that is how you do it. Also, thank you to our patrons who support us each and every week, making sure that we can pump out this great content for you guys, and we can keep the podcast going, even if we have to do them remotely like we are doing today. But guys, let's get started into the mock draft. We're going to go right into it because this one's going to be a long one. They usually are. We will start with Sean. We'll go Sean, Dave, me, like usual, given our top 10. And then we will start. The first thing I should say is the new order for our 1 through 10, or our lottery, I should say, is we mix up the lottery each and every time via Tankathon, and today's order will be at number 1, the Atlanta Hawks; at number 2, the New York Knicks; 3, the Charlotte Hornets; at number 4, the Chicago Bulls; at number 5, the Golden State Warriors; 6, the Cleveland Cavaliers; 7, the Minnesota Timberwolves; 8, the Detroit Pistons; 9, the Washington Wizards; 10, the Phoenix Suns. Spurs will then be at 11. We'll talk about them later. Kings are at 12. Pelicans at 13. Blazers at 14. And then the Magic start the playoff teams at 15. But Sean, we will start with you. What's your top 10?
Real quick before we do that, because I want to talk a little bit about how we've been changing it, because this is now the third team that has had the first overall pick. In the second one we had the Blazers, and the first one we had the Wizards. We've seen the Bulls at 2, now they're at 4. They've been at 10 before, so I think we're finally getting what we wanted and finally bouncing around from team to team using Tankathon. So I think this is a good idea, and we finally get some new things to talk about. At 1 for the Hawks, I have them going Anthony Edwards, guard out of Georgia. Then for 2, I have the New York Knicks. 2, EJ's dismay, James Wiseman, the center out of Memphis. Sorry, LaMelo Ball will not be a Knick for me. Then 3, the Charlotte Hornets take LaMelo Ball. Then at 4, the Bulls take Denny Avdia, forward from overseas. 5, Warriors take Obi Toppin, forward from Dayton University. 6, the Cavs take Killian Hayes, guard from overseas. 7, T-Wolves take Tyrese Halliburton, guard from Iowa State. 8, Pistons take Cole Anthony, guard out of UNC. 9, Wizards take Isaac Okoro, forward from Auburn. And at 10, the Suns taking Onyeka Okongwu, center from USC.
All right. I will start my 1 through 10 then. Number 1.
Ricky's dealing with his dog, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's that dog.
No, I just had myself muted. I'm still here. I was dealing with other things.
Blind sheep here, Dave. I'll guide you through it.
I just naturally thought Dave would be like, okay, Sean's done. I'm next.
I will do it now. How about that? At number 1 overall, I've got the Atlanta Hawks taking Anthony Edwards. At 2, I've got the Knicks taking LaMelo Ball. You're welcome. At 3, I've got the Hornets going with James Wiseman. 4, the Bulls will be taking Denny Avdia. At 5, the Warriors going Big O. At 6, I've got the Cavs taking Obi Toppin. At 7, T-Wolves, it's Tyrese Halliburton. At 8, the Pistons are going to take Killian Hayes. 9, the Wizards will be taking Isaac Okoro. And at 10, the Phoenix Suns will be taking Devin Vassell.
And then I'll round everything up. The Hawks as everyone has said before, Anthony Edwards, congratulations. You are in Hotlanta. Then easy, you will be thankful that I am letting LaMelo Ball be drafted to the New York Knicks. Hornets at 3 go James Wiseman. Then the Bulls at 4 go Killian Hayes, the guard from overseas. Then at 5, the Warriors go Aneka Okongwu from Southern California. Cavaliers at 6 go Denny Abdia, forward from overseas. Then the T-Wolves at 7 go R.J. Hampton. The Pistons get their point guard in Tyrese Halliburton. The Wizards, they will go Obi Poppin off, the forward from Dayton. And then at 10, the Phoenix Suns, Cole Anthony, the guard from UNC. So let's start at number 1. The Atlanta Hawks get the first pick for the first time in our mock drafts. Sean, I'll kind of start with you. We all have Anthony Edwards. What was going through your mind for why Anthony Edwards is the pick here? And is it basically because they traded for Clint Capella and no longer have a need to take James Wiseman?
I did debate whether it should be Edwards or Wiseman here, and obviously the fact that they'll have Capella now for 3 years after this under contract is playing a factor. The fact that they also have John Collins, who's averaging 21 and 11 right now, played into this. But I think overall, Wiseman I think is the best player in this draft, and I think fit is definitely going to play into into factor here. And we've seen time in and time and again, it's pretty easy. And I mean, I'm going to say down to yes, Clint Capella and John Collins, because I don't think that there's a reason right now to move away from John Collins. I think he's the easier to move out of him and Capella. Capella, we thought that the return that they got, the Rockets got for Capella was fairly low. And he's a guy that is just going to go up contract-wise, salary-wise, year by year by year. So I think it's going to be tough for them to move away from him. It seems like they made their idea to go out and get Capella, and they wanted to get a guy already. So it kind of shows that they're really not that interested in drafting a guy, because they knew they'd be picking high and they knew Wiseman might be around. So it kind of gave me the inclination that they were not going to take James Wiseman. I feel like they're not going to. I think that move kind of signaled that they're not going to go Wiseman. Now, it is possible that they trade John Collins and have Wiseman play the 4. We'll probably talk about that at some point. I do think Wiseman is capable of playing the 4, Capella more of a natural 5, and I think that fit wouldn't be bad. But I still think John Collins is fine where he is. Yes, he isn't perfect defensively, but he is just amazingly great offensively. And I think that he is still fairly young. I think that he could grow into his body. And I think having a rim protector, which he hasn't had, like Clint Capella, a caliber of Clint Capella next to him, could raise his defense, and he is extremely athletic. So I think that there'd be no real reason to go with Wiseman here. So I ended up going Edwards. Edwards has a great profile, a great athletic body. He really hasn't had that long-term career, at least when it comes to basketball. Extremely young, only 19. I think that if you look at the 3 players, LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, and Wiseman, he is the youngest, and I think he has the most room to grow. And on this Atlanta team, you already have Trae Young, you already have John Collins, you already have Clint Capella. And if Anthony Edwards grows into the player that we think he can, a great 2 guard that can score 20 a night for you and play great defense, he hasn't done that yet, but I think it is possible. That is going to be one of the most well-balanced lineups for the next 3 years if Anthony Edwards is able to hit a ceiling. So I love the ceiling of Edwards. He isn't my best player on my board, but I don't think the fit's there for Wiseman, so I went with Edwards.
Well, and Dave, I'll throw it your way because you're usually the one I hear talking about what players scored 40-plus points over John Collins in a given NBA game.
That's what I do.
Should the Hawks even think about Wiseman and think to maybe move on from Collins, or is like you have it? Is it just Anthony Edwards, clear choice, move on?
I want to just say it's Anthony Edwards. Don't even think about it. But I can't. I honestly can't. And here's the crazy thing. John Collins, I'm going to say this out loud. We'll see. Probably deserves a max extension at this point.
Okay.
Like, in the last month and a half, he's putting up like 25 a night on literally like 60, 50, 79. like just insane shooting splits. The man just oozes offense out. And I know that his defense will come eventually. Hell, even if it doesn't, when you get that kind of efficiency out of a big man, and that's not him taking like 1 3 a game, it's him taking 3.5 threes a game. I don't see how they could move on from John Collins. I truly believe that he and Trae Young, Cam Reddish, like that trio right there is definitely your core moving forward. I know Hunter's going to be good. I think that Kevin Huerter's continued to develop well, and Clint Capella, we will have to wait and see how he fits in this team, but he does seem like an easy plug-and-play center. Adds that rim protection, as Sean talked about. But I'm just so close to wanting to put Wiseman at 1. And I think the only thing holding me back is the differential between Wiseman and Capella versus Huerter and Anthony Edwards. And when I look at it from a straight up replacement standpoint, Anthony Edwards is leaps and bounds better in that respect. And what he could grow into, Sean was talking about, because he's so physically built already, as he continues to grow his game. And once he's on a team with a true facilitator, we're going to see a different Anthony Edwards. Right now, he's forcing things to happen. He's willing things to happen because his team's not good, and the ball just has to be in his hands. So you're seeing heavy turnovers. You're seeing plays out of frustration. You're seeing not great shot quality. So I think that, a lot of the concerns about his game, I'm not writing them off, but I am putting an asterisk there and saying, hey, let's see what he looks like with a team with an offensive system and a true point guard and, other offensive weapons, because I think we're not seeing the best Anthony Edwards yet. And we're going to see the guy who we're all excited about coming into this season at that point in the NBA.
Well, it's kind of almost like, really quick, Sean, before you pop in, I almost think of the same thing about like Jarrett Culver, where the Jarrett Culver that we've seen with the T-Wolves, vastly different than Texas Tech, because at Texas Tech, he was the ball handler. It's like the offense runs through you and you're the main guy. But Sean, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Just real quick off of that then, with the Culver thing, Culver was a team player on one of the best college teams that year. He wasn't anything as a freshman, and then sophomore year, that team starts to come up, and he starts to show off. So, I mean, I think a little bit has to play where, Culver had so much help, and Edwards doesn't. Yeah. And I think that's a big disclaimer, too. You put him around Trae Young, he's going to be able to score without a doubt. And he's going to be doing it more efficiently than he is right now at 40.2%. So that will immediately improve. And I do want to talk a little bit about the idea of what Dave said of the replacement idea. Like if you draft Wiseman, you're replacing Capella. And if you draft Edwards, you're then replacing Huerter. Obviously, Huerter would then move to the bench. I don't think they're getting rid of him. But one name I think was lost, and Dave, you might not have you might have mentioned him, but I do want to just kind of emphasize him a little bit more. It seems like the guy that is untouchable, the two guys that are at least untouchable on this team, are Trae Young and Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish has been phenomenal over the past couple months.
He's just grown. Like it's month by month improvements. And that's the thing. It's not like an overnight thing. It's just he's gotten all this attention all of a sudden. So people are like, oh shit, like.
We don't see him working out with chairs anymore. It's actually
no more chair workout. Well, I mean, again, the guy was coming off, and maybe I just don't have the medical background to understand him. Well, no, we liked him because of what he could be, and we understood it. But maybe I just don't understand like the medical background of the issues he was having in college. Was he the core injury or?
He was the core injury.
Yeah, and I don't understand the impact of that on a high level athlete, and the fact that he was still recovering. And that basically sets back his entire learning curve at the NBA level. So, where other players are coming in the league ready to go, he was still, getting back up to speed. And a couple months in, maybe it's just Hawks tradition. I don't know. But, as the season's gone on, he's gotten better. He hasn't hit that rookie wall of, I've played too many games, I'm starting to get exposed.
And in trying to build out this lineup, it seems like he's going to be their 3 moving forward. And I know Hunter was drafted above him, but it showed that Cam Reddish had more potential than DeAndre Hunter. And right now, what you've seen out of Cam Reddish, he's their best defender. And he, night in, night out, playing next to Trae Young, has looked great. He looks so athletic and so fluid. So if we're building out that starting lineup, Trae Young obviously at guard. We'll leave a hole right now for shooting guard. We'll place Cam Reddish at the 3, Collins at the 4, and Capella at the 5, or we could leave a hole if we want. But looking at it, Wiseman would elevate that defense to a next level, because then you have Reddish, who I think could be possibly an all defensive player team. I'm not going to cap him. And then Wiseman as well, who I think has that high level as well. But Capella already has been that in the league. Capella's already been an all defensive player in this league. And I don't think you're losing too much defensively from Herter to Edwards, but you are gaining immediate offense and you are gaining a better athlete. And I think that's the biggest thing that this team has looked for. They went out and got Cam Reddish and didn't hesitate on taking him because of the athlete that he was. John Collins, when we were talking about him, he was probably one of the better athletes in that draft coming out of Wake Forest. It was just small program, didn't have great numbers. But if you watched him, he was one of the best athletes on the floor every single night. And he was playing the ACC against UNC and Duke. He was also a sophomore, which hurt him a little bit, but he has shown his athleticism as well. I think the athletic, at least profile of Edwards is what's going to shine. And I know some people don't see him as a major athlete because he isn't like super ripped. He is kind of bowling ballish, but he is a former football player. He's a former running back. He just screams an athlete that hasn't really been untapped just yet. And that's what I love about him. So I think that adding an athlete of his profile to John Collins, to Cam Reddish, to Clint Capella, to Trae Young, fully realizes and materializes the Atlanta Hawks lineup moving forward. I think it's a truly great addition to get Edwards as their 2.
Yeah, and the one thing I do want to bring up is Sam mentioned in Twitch chat of the possibility of them trading down. And the only way I trade down is if I'm the Hawks, is if the Knicks come calling and the Knicks are like, we'll give you one of our picks and maybe a Maverick pick or 2 of our picks to move up to number 1, because the Knicks picks will probably be valuable still even next year or the years after. Or if really the Hornets call, because the question that I have in my mind, this is the last thing I'll throw out with the Hawks for you guys, is if trading back is an option, and that's something that, let's say, you're going to kind of throw out there for you, as John in the Twitch chat says, boo on trades. Got to talk about them. Teams trade. Would you only look at the Knicks or the Hornets, or would you think about maybe trading with a team like the Cavs, who at number 6 could look to move up to try to get like a Wiseman or an Edwards, and you can trade down, get some draft capital, and still get a guy maybe like RJ Hampton at 6 if you're the Hawks?
Yeah, I necessarily don't find the reasoning. You have the ability right now to fully fill out your lineup with a better player in, at least right now, Anthony Edwards. RJ Hampton isn't a bad player, but there's a reason right now he's 11 on this mock draft, and we'll get to him a little bit later. He's 13 on Dave's. He doesn't have that same upside that Anthony Edwards does. Edwards is a better athlete. He's a better scorer. And I think he might end up projecting to be a better defender. RJ Hampton right now, hands down, better defender. But I think in the end, Edwards with his athletic profile could end up being the best defender out of those 2. So I don't see the point of them trading down. You already did that to get Trae Young, and we see the difference between Trae Young and Luka Doncic. I wouldn't do that right now. This team doesn't need assets. They need somebody. They need a guy to play next to their star in Trae Young. And not only could you get a guy next to him, I think you can get a potential star as well, again, in Anthony Edwards, where I think you're getting a guy than an RJ Hampton. So the potential, I think, oozes too much for Edwards. And you've already watered down the players on your team by trading back. I don't see the potential in it. I don't see the positives in it, at least.
What's your thought process, Dave?
I mean, they got Cam Reddish out of that deal, to be fair. But I am with Sean. I think in this class, we have that level of separation 1 through 3, and then everybody else. And it's just tough to say that you can be okay with, hey, we'll get a pick, a little bit later than this draft, and then maybe pick in next year or the year after's draft. I think this is a team that they already are underwhelming in results this year. They looked absolutely dreadful when Trae Young was not on the court. And when he and John Collins were together, they were still not a good team. So I think this is a team that needs to hit and needs to hit now in order to be competitive and keep people happy. Otherwise, they're going to lose it. Well, they're potentially firing a head coach already. That's something that's already been put on the table. And I think it's just you have to show your young stars that you will get to a winning position quickly, because looking across the board and be like, Devin Booker and Phoenix still on the outside looking in, You don't want to put that around your team. You don't want to have your best player, who Trae Young putting up 29 points a game right now, just absolutely insane assist numbers. You don't want him to sit there, be unhappy, lose week in, week out. And you have such a loaded young team. Like, something's not jiving there. You're getting top end talent, but you're not translating that to wins. They need to land another star. And then this next year, they need to hit the ground running.
And two, with this too, if they get the number 1 overall pick, they get Anthony Edwards. I want to talk a little bit about what Collins has brought to this team, and then also the idea of firing Lloyd Pierce. So first off, I'm going to start with Collins. January 22nd is when he started kind of having that run up to the end of the season. So the last 23 games, he's a guy 63% from the field, 45% from three, 10 boards, 1.6 assists, 0.8 steals, 1.2 blocks, 24.8 points per game. And Dave, you already mentioned a little bit about this, but we hear those numbers and you're like, oh my God, they got this great 5. We talked about the last month of Cam Reddish. He's been great. Trae Young's been Trae Young, scoring nearly 30 points per game and dishing out 12 assists. And yet this team is still 25th in point differential. They're 13th in offense in that time and 29th in defense. So the addition of bringing in Clint Capella, who's an all defensive player team, or all defensive player, an all defensive team player. There it is. All defensive team player, and then Anthony Edwards on top of it, that should skyrocket this team, because right now the 3 guys that have been on the floor in their starting lineup have jived well together, but it's the other 12 on the team and the fact that their coach really hasn't jived. I think that the biggest thing that they could do this offseason is draft Anthony Edwards if they are lucky enough to have the first overall pick, or if Wiseman goes 1 and they have 2. Bringing back Clint Capella, firing Lord Pierce, and bringing in Kenny Atkinson. That guy would bring true culture to this team. I think we would see a skyrocketing from Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a plan, Sean. I don't disagree with any bit of it.
Well, let's move on. Next team. Easy's going to be happy with this one. We're talking about the Knicks at number 2. And I would love to go to Dave first, but Dave and I both have the same thing. Sean's the odd man out. So Sean,
why aren't you picking LaMelo Ball here?
Exactly.
Why are you pissing off all of New York and making the wrong decision?
Mitch Robin, James Wiseman going to be your 2 towers down low? Is that what you're thinking?
Are you going to form a fucking wall? You Stan Van Gundy right now?
Mitchell Robinson's going to fall out, or he's going to fall out, so you're not going to have one of those towers. And also, sorry, I actually want to do New York a favor and draft him the better player. Like, does anyone disagree? I think Ricky might, but does anyone disagree that James Wiseman is – I think Wiseman's a better player than Ball. Who disagrees? That's what I should say.
I don't think there's a clear way to make it. Like, I feel like you can make an argument for either. Like Sam said, the fact remains, though, no one in the top 3 are generational franchise caliber.
I don't know.
I don't know about the franchise caliber part. I think the thing that plays into it is it's not like last year or the year before, where, for example, like, I know Luka didn't go number 1. We knew Luka was going to be really fucking good. Last year, we knew Zion was going to be number 1. Neither of these 3 guys are that guy. They're all clumped together in Edwards, Ball, and Wiseman, to where it's kind of like, well, yeah, I think Wiseman will be good, but we don't know which one's going to be better because of what we've seen, or haven't seen, I should say, from either of them.
Put myself out there and just say it. If all 3 of those guys played in the NCAA, Wiseman, Ball, and Anthony Edwards, and Wiseman, wasn't suspended, he got a full season, or at least, full season to the extent of what we're able to deal with now with coronavirus. But if Wiseman was out there, I don't think this would be a discussion. I think he would be clearly the number 1 player on everyone's board. He is 7'1". He has this ridiculous wingspan, 240. He's already filled out into his frame, and he could even fill out more. I mean, we're looking at a Joel Embiid type player in James Wiseman. He's got a great touch. He's extremely athletic. He doesn't back down, and he blocks the shit and rim protects like crazy. And you just see the athlete that he is. That's something that I don't think is matched by LaMelo Ball, and maybe it is, matched by Anthony Edwards, but Anthony Edwards doesn't have the refinement that James Wiseman has. I think it's a perfect blend of LaMelo Ball's skill and the athleticism of Anthony Edwards, and that's exactly what everybody's looking for in an NBA player. Yes, he's a center, and that's probably the reason why he isn't jumping off the page, but if we're truly talking about who's the best basketball player in this draft, it is easily James Wiseman. So if I am, the Knicks or anything, I have the ability to take the best player in the draft. I'm not passing that up. I want James Wiseman, and also it helps that I love Frank Ntilikina. He just played a great game against the Wizards. I still think he has a bright future. He is still extremely young. So I think you have some guards on this team that can work. You have RJ Barrett, clearly. You have Mitchell Robinson. You're just adding another talented player out there. And if you go out and get a Kenny Atkinson, like I know our guy EJ wants to run this team could have really good bones. And I think that James Wiseman is the clear pick here because he's the best player available.
Dave, go ahead. Understand where you're coming from in a lot of this. And I do agree that James Wiseman, had he played the entire season in the NCAA, would be more widely regarded as the number 1 overall pick on most people's boards. The problem isn't that he's not going, or the problem isn't that, like, physically he's fantastic. He has, you mentioned Joel Embiid. I see a little more Anthony Davis. Like, point being, we're talking about the top tier of big men in the NBA. But when we talk about how you win games at the NBA level and what guys are most valuable, you will need the ball in their hands. And that, to me, screams LaMelo Ball. That is how a bad team gets better quickly. That is how teams can start getting production, get things rolling. And LaMelo Ball is someone who is a maestro in the half-court offense already. We saw the impact that Trae Young had in his first season and how much that changed the way that, like, that Hawks team got to play because they had a true point guard out there, someone who could make magic happen. And I know Trae Young has unlimited range, which puts him in a different category way above LaMelo Ball. But LaMelo Ball runs an offense well. He drives to the basket well. He's got great size, great wingspan. Like, he ticks all the boxes that I want for what I'm going to build around. And the fact that the ball is in his hands, he might not be the best player in this draft, but he has the most impact available, and I think he has the highest upside.
Well, hey, could I see a scenario playing out where James Wiseman's drafted to the Knicks and it doesn't pan out to him because he doesn't have a guard that's able to get him the ball? Absolutely. And we look at the guys that we talked about. Anthony Davis wasn't able to make it work unless he played with LeBron James. We look at Joel Embiid, and he's continuously capped by Ben Simmons' inability to shoot a three. So, yeah, you're absolutely right that guards and wings and ball handlers have more of an impact on this game. But again, I don't trust that LaMelo Ball will be able to leapfrog a team. I don't think he's that great of a scorer. I think he's extremely thin and weak, and I don't think he will be able to hold on to what he's been able to do from high school. And then you even saw in the international games, in the 12 games he played, he wasn't good. I don't see it right now in him. What are you talking about? The guy shot 39% from the field. I don't see his ability to create really jumping off the page. He had a couple games where it showed, but I didn't see the ability to go in there and dominate. We've seen that from Anthony Edwards time and time again. We saw that in 3 games pretty much in James Wiseman's time in the NCAA. I have concerns and questions about LaMelo Ball's ability to stay focused, to score in the NBA, because his shot's a little bit broken, and I don't think he's a strong enough player.
But he's
then
6'7".
Also his defense is shit. Okay, he's 6'7". James Wiseman's 7'1".
Yeah, James Wiseman's a 7'1" center, which is above average by an inch and a half. LaMelo Ball, being a 6'7" point guard, is about a foot taller than Chris Paul. Like,
I would still take Chris Paul to beat him.
No, everyone would. My point is the difference from the median, from the standard, from the norm. Like, he would be he's got freakish measurables for a point guard. And that's why it makes him special. Like, that's all part of what builds into his package. Is he's 6'7", he has ball handling skills of a point guard, He has the ability to read a offensive play set, read the defense, and move the ball around like a top-tier point guard. So all he really needs to work on is his shot, his defense, and the defense of a point guard is the least important defense in the NBA.
I think he has to work on the scoring in general, not just his shooting.
He's solid driving. He needs to build up physically to be able to finish through contact. I will give you that. He is not grown into that body yet. It will take him 3 years in the NBA to add on the muscle he needs, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't take him now. Like, that's my thought, is he's just someone who his skill set, his ability, him with the ball in his hands will make things work well. James Wiseman is a unique athlete, and he's got comps that we're putting literally the top big men in the NBA, but the impact of a top big man versus the impact of a top ball handler, that you just have to admit that they're capped differently. And that's why I think the Knicks, as a franchise that's so young and they've got so many guys that they need to continually grow, you need a point guard out there to lead them. And who's better at dealing with egos than a ball?
I mean, before you jump in, there's a question from EJ, and he says he wishes Wiseman was two inches shorter and a better lateral movement and a quicker leaper. I think because he wants him to play the 4. I think you could play him at the 4 and see what happens. I don't think he was able to fully get ramped up in those 3 games. I think he's got great lateral movement. I think that he still does have the ability to attack. And at 7'1", he might not be the leaper that Zion Williamson is, but he makes that up with his wingspan and height. So I think he has the ability to play the 4, even though he's 7'1". So I could see a lineup of Frank Ntilikina, RJ Barrett, fill in whoever you want at the 3, because they have nobody right now.
Kevin Knox.
Yeah, Wiseman.
I know.
And then, Mitchell Robinson. I can see that as a lineup being effective. And Dave, I can't argue with the fact that the guard having that much value. And I know Ricky's going to speak on it right now, but I do think Wiseman's ultimately the best player, and I think that you're getting a guy that you talked earlier. I'll take guys with higher floors than these bottom ceilings. I think Wiseman has a higher floor, and I'm very, very concerned about where LaMelo Ball's floor is.
Yeah, with me, I feel like this is a pick that is team specific, because like EJ had mentioned, you gotta think about how this team is already built to where like they already have Mitch Rob moving forward at their 5. You look at the 4 position. I know that they traded Marooks away. You still have Julius Randle on this team. Bobby Portis is a 15 mil club option. I don't know. I don't know if the Knicks take or don't take that, but if they do take it, why would I add in a guy like Wiseman to then clog up my bigs where I don't have a point guard? Frank is good, but like Easy said, he's not a ball handler. He's good coming off the bench, but he's not going to be that main ball handler for you in the starting lineup. LaMelo can be that guy. LaMelo can be the guy you write out there with RJ Barrett, and them growing together. Your big 3 of the future could be LaMelo, RJ, and then Mitch Rob down low. Like, that could be the core 3 that you build on for this Knicks team. And like, I just, yes, I agree. Like, I agree with Sean's mindset of like, take BPA, but with this one, I feel like team need is way more important for the Knicks because of what they already have. And yes, LaMelo's not a perfect prospect, but really in this draft, who's a perfect prospect? I don't think we have a perfect prospect in this draft. If we did, they'd be number 1 overall.
I think it's James Wiseman. I think I made that point already.
I still think Wiseman has things to work on as well. I don't think there's one prospect in this draft that is like they are perfect. They don't need to work on anything, or they don't need to adapt anything.
I don't know. I think Wiseman, I think you're making the point, and I think you're really just mainly talking, and correct me if I'm wrong, talking about his ability to stretch the floor, but I think it's in him. I just don't think we saw it. That's not how Memphis played. He has a very good touch. I think his jumper's solid. I just don't think he's taken that many shots from beyond the 3-point line. So I think once he gets those opportunities, I think that he could be someone that is able to score from, obviously around the rim. He shot 80% in his game or 76% in his games. But then also,
a bunch of fucking 6'8"
And I think he's got a great mid-range game already. And I think that, if he's able to work on a shot, I don't think the three-point abilities outside of that appearing in his rookie year. He's shot around 70% from the floor. I would like to see what that would be like over a 20-game span instead of a 3-game span for him. But I honestly don't see any weak points in him.
Yeah. And this is one where obviously debates are going to happen, but do you go with the big? Do you go with the point guard? I'm with Dave. You go with the guy that is more of a team need. But let's move on the Hornets. This is one where, depending on how your board falls off, you're either going to take LaMelo Ball or James Wiseman. Dave, I will go to you first this time, just so we're not doing the same thing. How does James Wiseman fit with the Charlotte Hornets?
He's real tall.
That's about it.
That's the expert advice you come to me for.
Does Zeller's tall?
I look, I want to disagree with what you said, because I don't think this is just a toss-up. Number 3, I think that if you have LaMelo on your board still, that means you're open to Denny Avdia, you're open to Obi Toppin as well. I don't think you're just necessarily at LaMelo Ball is the go-to guy at 3. I know it's the way it landed with us, but I don't think that's going to be unanimous around the world.
Because I'm just going to jump in real quick. The only reason I say the other side is, Scary Terry's on this team, but I'm not super confident in any of these point guards. I know you love your Devonta Graham. And
Terry Rozier's not a point guard. That's problem number 1.
Yeah.
He's a shooting guard.
He's listed on, I'm looking at Spot Rack. They have him listed as a point guard. So it's like, even if that's
not incredibly mean. If you've watched the Hornets this season, because I know they're an in-demand team.
Yeah, I know.
You literally can't play without a point guard on the court next to him.
And that's the thing.
Awful.
Even if you're going to say that, then that, to me, feels the point of okay, then you can't pass on a guy like LaMelo who would be your point guard.
It would be tough, but if there's another team, in a mock where it got put up there that didn't necessarily need a point guard, I could see it going out.
If the Warriors are there at 3, I could absolutely see him taking Obi Toppin over an Anthony Edwards or a LaMelo Ball or Denny Avdia to that point as well.
But for the sake of this mock, we have the Hornets.
This mock, I understand completely. No, I think it's perfect. I really like what PJ Washington's done, Miles Bridges. I think those guys are your wings for the future. I think both of them are absolutely stellar hits. For me, it just kind of falls into James Wiseman. Again, he was the best player on my board by a long distance for this team. So look at them. They literally just need a center who could be a game changer. And I think he absolutely will be that. But if I had both LaMelo and Wiseman on my board, I would still go Wiseman for the Hornets.
Sean, going LaMelo, why?
He's right now, I think that, Dave talked about the lack of a point guard on this team, and he is still the guard with the highest ceiling in this draft. Killian Hayes probably has a higher floor, but LaMelo Ball's potential, I think, is massive. Dave spoke about it. Being 6'7" already gives him 2 inches of a head up on Killian Hayes, and those 2 inches are huge when you're talking about the landscape of point guards.
That's what she said.
Jeez. But no, I think LaMelo, with his passing abilities, and Dave talked about Miles Bridges and PJ Washington, and even to that point, Devonta Graham and Terry Rozier, and even Malik Monk, if he ever gets playing time or gets his head out of his ass or stops taking drugs, apparently, because he got suspended. We kind of never talked about that because the season is suspended. But yeah, Malik Monk got popped, our wet boy. But yeah, I think that LaMelo immediately lets that offense breathe and immediately lets them flow in a flow that they currently do not have.
Yeah.
And that's something obviously that every offense needs. And if he's able to develop as a scorer, you're going to get a guard that is going to be, one of the upper echelon guards in this league, even if he can't defend. I think that, the fact that he is 6'7", he's already going to bring great passing to this team. I think this team's already fun. They could shoot from the outside. LaMelo Ball just makes them flow easier. You're turning on that faucet, and there's going to be less hiccups. There's going to be less gaps. And I think that the Hornets get a guy that you can strap a rocket to, because if he's able to mesh with PJ Washington and Miles Bridges and Graham and Rozier, I think that this team could finally start to figure out what this lineup looks like than, just having guys out there. All right, does Devonta Graham come off the bench for us, and is he our sixth man like a Lou Williams? Are we going to have Miles Bridges and PJ Washington be on the floor at the same time, be our 3 and the 4? Then they just really have to go out and find a 5, because then you have Terry Rozier at your 2, LaMelo Ball at your 1. You have 2 great wings in Washington and Bridges, and then you got to go out and find a 5. I think it gives them continuity. It gives them an identity. And I think that it finally brings this team together. And James Borrego, I got to give him credit. He's been pretty impressive. Although this team's not winning games, dealing with the roster that he's been able to deal with. They're right now 7 games out of the playoff spot. I wouldn't expect that from the Hornets, being the 10th team in the Eastern Conference right now. So Borrego deserves a ton of credit, and you finally give him a point guard that can actually dribble and pass, which would be exciting.
I love Devonta Graham. So I gotta just simmer a little here. He, as much as I love him being on the bench in the second unit with Malik Monk would be massive for this team. Like, that would be a huge win, allowing LaMelo Ball to come in and be the starter, play alongside Terry Rozier. Like, I think they just get enormously better. It's not that Devonta Graham's bad out there. It's just that he makes other players better, and he can run a second unit really well. So I think there would be, very little fall off as far as production standpoint as well. So I think that if they get LaMelo Ball, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just, that's the way my board went. They're getting a big man.
Yeah, and like I can't help but think with the Hornets, like the thing I love about this mock that we have is basically the Knicks, the Hornets, and then the team we're going to talk next in the Bulls all make huge jumps from 6, 7, and 8, that they all jump into the top 4. And if, like, first you're thinking if you're the Hornets, cool. If you're third, I don't care who I get, because I didn't even think I was going to get a top prospect. Like, we could debate LaMelo or Wiseman, where a Hornet fan might be like, holy shit, I'm getting Wiseman or LaMelo? Like, fuck it. Yeah, I'll take either one. I thought I was going to be sitting at 8. But then there's also the thought process where, like, let's say the board falls like Dave and mine's board, where Wiseman's available. You're not going to kick a gift horse in the mouth. You're going to take Wiseman, and you're not even going to think 2 thoughts about it. But there is a thought to me is, if that's how the board is going to play out, and it, of course, depends on how the lottery plays out, the Hornets are also a team where even if they finish at 8, it's not the worst thing in the world, because if you're thinking, hey, they need a point guard or they need a guard so that Graham can then go to the second unit and play with Malik Monk, they're still going to get that at 8. So, like, out of all of our teams in the top 4, I would say, and maybe you guys disagree with me here, that they are the team that necessarily doesn't need to move up from 8 to 4 or 8 to 3 in order to get what they truly need to help this team win.
No, I think they absolutely need to be like it's Wiseman, because if you get any of the other point guards that come, that point guard's off the bench. Killian Hayes is not better than Devonta Graham. Tyrese Haliburton, no, I wouldn't start him over him. Like, that's the thing. The difference between a big man like Wiseman and the next big man in Onyeka Okongwu versus LaMelo Ball and the rest of the point guards, there's a gap.
Okay, so you're saying that the big man gap between those two is smaller than the point guard gap. Okay,
correct.
I think I disagree with Dave a little bit here, just because I think that Haliburton and Hayes would probably start on this team. I understand that you love Devonta Graham. He's putting up 20 points per game. But I don't see him as, a true point guard. And I think if you put Hayes or Haliburton in that lineup, it immediately lets them flow. What do you mean?
Do you see his assist numbers?
It's different, though, because I think that you look at the way Hayes and Haliburton play, it's more about playing within the system, right? And I think Graham, it's a little bit difficult because this team doesn't have that great of talent, but I do think that Haliburton and Hayes are natural facilitators, where Graham right now has to do everything from, leading an offense, facilitating, and scoring. I think that he's probably best off giving him 32 minutes off the bench as your second guard or your second unit leader. And I think that's when he starts to shine and flow. And I think the other four guys benefit from having Hayes and Halliburton out there because, yes, they can score, but I do think that they're natural facilitators and ball movers, just like LaMelo Ball is. And I think that, yes, you have the, idea of, you're picking a guy top 3 compared to 8, so it's easier to bench the guy at 8. But I think it is kind of necessary for this team to get a top 3 pick because it immediately will give them a star. I love PJ Washington. I love Miles Bridges. I like Terry Rozier. I like Devonta Graham, but I don't think they have a franchise face yet. And LaMelo Ball automatically becomes that, or Anthony Edwards or James Wiseman automatically becomes that. And, whether we can debate on Devonta Graham's assist numbers and what he does,
that team 18, 10-plus assist games this season.
But yeah, they score a ton of points. They run as fast as they possibly can, and they try to just get the ball into one another's hands. But I think that if you're able to slow the game down, I don't think Devonta Graham is getting those numbers. Where if they're going in transition and you have Washington and Monk and fucking Bridges out on the break, it's easier to hit those guys. But in a true system and in a true half court setting, that's where I think LaMelo can be a better passer and a better facilitator than Devonta Graham. And same thing with Killian Hayes. He's dynamic in the pick and roll, and we see how horrible Devonta Graham is at the rim. He isn't a threat in the pick and roll. And I think the same thing with Halliburton with his length and size. So I think, yes, you can point to the assist numbers, but I think we also have to look at how they're getting it. And a lot of it is A, in garbage time, and B, a lot of it is because of fast break transition points that this team's really good at.
Well, they're a young team. They're very athletic. They're gonna run. That's the game plan. Very similar to what the Pelicans do. The only difference is the Pelicans have amazing talent, and they don't.
So let's move on. Number 4, the team I love to talk about. Dave loves to talk about. Sean, feel like Chicago fan, but not a Bulls fan. The Bulls are at 4, and you guys both have Abdia. I have Killian Hayes, so I'll go ahead and start with this one. This pick, I made it, and then just now, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, yeah, we need a point guard, right? Chris Dunn, probably not gonna get re-signed. Kobe White's looked good, but necessarily we're still looking of the question of, is he just a really good creator and combo guard? Or is he the quote unquote point guard of the future? My 2 choices here would either be Hayes or Abdia. Abdia was a guy that even in our way too early, I think. Yeah, our way too early. I had him when the Bulls were at 2 in that one. I had them go with Abdia even over Anthony Edwards at the time. So for me, I feel like both fit, but in my mind, I feel like because Kobe White, although he was getting on a heater before the season got suspended, is point guard the if de facto. Am I wrong for just, best point guard, let's put him there, and not really debating either point guard or 3 on the outside who can space and shoot? Dave, I'll go to you. Why did you pick Abdia over any of the other point guards? Because at 4, Bulls got pick of the litter.
Yeah, really the only point guard I would pick over Denny would have been LaMelo Ball. So I look at it as Denny Abdia is a unique package. He has got good size, and for his size, he moves quite well and dribble the ball well enough as a wing. Where I would trust him. He's got good shot, the motion's solid, good defensive capabilities. He is a really great template for what you want the modern wing in the NBA to be. And I look at the Chicago Bulls, and we are snake bitten with injuries at the wing. Christ, who was our draft pick? Who's played 18 games or something in 2 years? We took him at 21 or something.
Is it?
22.
We got Denzel. We got Hutchinson.
Hutch. Yeah. He's played 18 games in 2 years. Fucking awful. We can't have a healthy wing out there. So I think this is a position where I'm definitely just taking Denny Abdia. I think that he has got the perfect kit to go forward. I do like Killian Hayes, but I think I want to run out Kobe White and Zach LaVine together. Let's just see what happens. I'll be honest. My expectation for the Chicago Bulls team is
Dave's
the
like,
season's
new
gone
GM,
on.
hopefully new coach. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'd like to see what an actual head coach with any offensive idea, and just one, just anything in general, could do with Kobe White running point guard. So for me, I look at it. I would even consider Obi Toppin here. I know we talked about the Lowry issues. I would consider it, but I think Denny is like the perfect fit right now for the Bulls. And we took Kobe with the idea that he was going to be a one. I know this season he's had to earn his minutes, and he hasn't looked like he is a natural facilitator out there. I still think that, look, if Zach can average 5 assists a game, maybe Kobe doesn't need to be a natural one. Maybe Kobe can get us like 3-4 assists a game. Zach can get us 4 assists a game. Wendell, we saw a little bit of action with him rolling the high post and moving the ball out of there. And Denny, obviously, he can get you a couple assists a game. So, like, maybe it's just more of a team effort kind of ball movement that the Bulls need to be looking for in the future. Or if we get a head coach like we talked about, and Atkins, wow, I hate you, Ricky. It's infectious.
Kenny Atkinson.
Where he seems to be like a point guard whisperer of sorts, or Mike D'Antoni, also point guard whisperer. I'll take it.
I agree with Dave here, the fact, because I have FDA going here too. I think that the idea of team offense and team passing will fit with any player, obviously, in any team. But I think it would be really great with this Bulls team because Kobe White isn't a natural one, and I don't believe that he has that ability in him. I've always said that he's been a combo guard. I think we've been talking about that a lot, over the past couple months now. The more and more we've been able to watch him, I don't think he has that natural ability like a Killian Hayes does to be a one and be a facilitator. But I do think he is probably at this point too dynamic not to start, and I think that obviously they, Bulls fans were robbed of it to see Zach LaVine and Kobe White together, but I think they do deserve a shot to see what happens out there. So your 1 and 2 are pretty much locked in there. I think that if they took a point guard, I don't think it'd be too bad. If they're moved down, if they're around that 7, 8, 9 spot, I think they will be taking a point guard. But I think Avdia, with his age, with his ability to do pretty much anything on the floor, makes it too tantalizing not to take him. Because yes, Otto Porter's probably going to be back, but he brings
he may not.
He brings shooting. He may not, Otto Porter, but it is possible. I don't think he's not. I think he's definitely
the number's good for a 1-year deal.
$million.
Yeah, it's just a matter of if somebody, because of the lack of competition out there, would be willing to offer him like a 4-year deal, keep him locked up in that 25 plus range, kind of Harrison Barnes-esque,
I'm not gonna rule it out, but also I'm not also gonna be saying that's a thing, because again I think it's too tough to turn down $27 million. But again, with Avdia, I think he's really a plug and play guy. He could start, I think, this year. I think that he is really fluid, good athlete. He's got a great bounce to him, and he started to respond to playing in the EuroLeague, and he started to go through the hardships that Luka Doncic did. Earning his minutes, fighting for his time, kind of the Jim Boylan way. And I think that he has shown a lot of character over the past couple months. So I think with his ability and his length and his athleticism, I think it's too good for the Bulls to pass up here.
And that's why in my situation, I'm just sitting there, I was looking at it, I'm like, should I have gone Denny Abdia over Killian Hayes? But let's move on. The Warriors are a team. They have been at 4 for so long in our mocks. They're finally somewhere different, but this is a team that I feel like each and every mock, it's like, well, it's the same thing. Go ahead and take a big, whichever one you like. Sean, I believe, has a first time to them. I don't think he's popped up. He has not popped up. So this is the first time he's popped up in the top 5 of our draft. Sean, why did you have the Warriors go with Obi popping off from Dayton?
Well, I think the reason is, and we talked a little bit about, if the Warriors end up in 3, that Obi Toppin could be a name that ends up going top 3 outside of Edwards, Wiseman, and Ball. I think the biggest thing is we look at this team, and you have Steph Curry who returned, and then obviously, season got suspended. You're going to have Klay Thompson coming back. The biggest hole, I think, there is just you need another guy who can fit into this system, can stretch the floor, can handle the ball a bit, can drive, attack. I don't think, obviously, this is, I'm not, we see that they lost Kevin Durant, right? And I think Obi Toppin, he does bring at least the ability to stretch the floor. He does bring the ability to be a guy that can be a scorer for you. He does bring similar size, maybe not because, KD is apparently 7 feet tall, but Obi Toppin's still like 6'9". And I think that he does bring a lot of energy, and he brings a more rounded out game than I think pretty much any of these other players below him can. I mean, he's a 3-year player at Dayton. I think he fits in maturity wise with this team. And I think overall, he might not be a better long-term investment than, Onyeka Okongwu, but I think he is a better fit with this fast, high-tempo play style where Onyeka Okongwu, you're going to have to play him 10 feet below the basket, feed him the basket. He's going to need to create his own offense down there, and you're really just needing him for rim protector. But we've seen in, years and year out that, guys like Rudy Gobert, guys like Clint Capella can get played off the floor in Western Conference playoffs. Obi Toppin won't do that. Obi Toppin might not be able to find his offense on certain nights, but I still think that he can make an impact on this team and will be able to do so immediately due to the fact that he is a 3-year player.
So I'm going to throw out some ridiculous comps for you here.
Okay.
Obi Toppin is like a John Collins profile, and Onyeka Okongwu is similar to Bam. Which one would you want?
I would. Yeah, I mean, I'd take Bam, but I'd also push back on that a little bit. I don't think
size-wise,
well, not size-wise a little bit.
College comparable.
Collins was mainly a post-up guy.
No, I guess Collins added the 3-point shot later in his career. Yes.
Toppin played very typically, outside the break and on the wing. So I think that's a little bit different there. And I think as well,
discount Amari Stoudemire, easy.
I don't know. Amari Stoudemire is really good for the Suns, so I mean,
but it's the offense, and that's the thing. It's just Obi Toppin is just oozing with offense, defense sketchy. Onyeka Okongwu has the ability to be a shutdown defender at the rim, but also, like you said, you have to feed him the ball. You don't have to feed him the ball. The dude's going to get tip backs left and right. Like that is his game plan. His offense can come off of rebounding, which he is very good. And I like the way that he is able to control the low post. So I think he is going to be a better fit for them. And I know this is going to sound even more ridiculous, but I feel like they found their, 4 that they're going to roll with if it is, I'm not crunch time, but like Eric Pascal is basically, that's their big 6'8" kind of guy. He might even be 6'7". I don't know. I know he's like littler than he looks, but he's also like fat and not fat, brick. He's a brick.
It's a brick shit house.
Yeah. Between Draymond and Eric, like I don't see them going for another guy who's going to be like a 4-5 tweener. I think that they go for Onyeka,
I don't see Toppin as a 4-5. I don't see Toppin as a 4-5 tweener.
You see him as a 3?
I see him as a 3-4. Okay. I don't see him as a 4-5 tweener. Yeah, I think that if he is playing on this team, I think you see, them going, if they go to the death lineup or whatever, I think you see Draymond slide to the 5, and I think you could see Pascal be the 4, and then Toppin plays at 3. Or there you go. I mean, you can then slide Toppin to the 4 and then have Wiggins be the 3. I totally forgot about him because
I was going to say.
But yeah, no, I think that you can.
I like the defensive potential.
Onyeka Okongwu, but again, I see the possibility of him being played off in playoff minutes.
I don't know about that. With the only thing of
Rudy Gobert's the best defender in the league, right?
He's the best rim defender.
I see Onyeka Okongwu being the best rim defender. I think if you go up against the Houston Rockets and they're going up with Covington at the 5, and you have Russ and Harden out there, he's gonna fall out. Westbrook will take it to him, and yes, he may get a couple blocks on him, but
the difference is Rudy Gobert's 7'1", and Onyeka is only 6'9". Like he's got faster feet. He's able to go out to the perimeter. That's why I have him higher because he is still he's able to move well as a big, and that's so valuable to this team. And they really just need to find a plug and play 5 because, like you said, Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, him, and you can kind of switch whoever's guarding who in that low post matchup to fit your needs, because we know how Draymond can get on people's nerves and just play up to ridiculous defensive levels. Like, I think that is a lineup that is just fucking deadly day one. I think Obi Toppin gives them offense, but I don't think they need offense. If this is a team, if they're ever looking for somebody to score points, they're in trouble already.
Yeah.
Because that means Steph's not playing, or Clay's not playing, or Wiggins ain't playing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way Rudy's 7'3", J-Dub. Get out of here. He's like 7'1".
The biggest thing, again, going back to Okongwu, he at least so far through college, and it is a limited USC team that we're looking at, but he's all right when it comes to transition, and that's still a big part of this team. He isn't that great of a passer. I think Toppin clearly fits in, at least passing profile-wise. I don't think you're making a bad argument. Again, like, if they went with Okongwu, I would see it, but we've seen time and time again that this team doesn't truly need a big, especially a guy that is a true 5 out on the floor for them to win. And if they have a wing or a 3 or a 4 that can score, it takes pressure off of Steph, especially if he's banged up. It takes pressure off of Klay Thompson when he's coming off an injury. I don't think Onyeka Okongwu, maybe he can turn into a better defender, at least especially on the perimeter. I do agree with that argument there, that he does have a better profile to possibly be a guy that isn't played off the floor.
When you look at him, you got to think of he's a guy who isn't going to be constantly banging down low post because you do have Draymond. You have to play him similar to how Bam plays. I know he doesn't have the facilitation that Bam has learned to add to his game, but I don't think it's impossible for him to get halfway there. And again, if they get Obi Toppin, he's going to have the fourth quarter to himself, because they're going to be fucking joking on kids too. Like, that's the thing. I really don't think there's a right or wrong answer for them, because I think that either one of these guys is going to have a limited role his first year.
And there's not a better team to go with the Warriors. I think that, if you are seeing the Bam potential in them, I think the Warriors, there's not a better spot than the Heat and the Warriors to get drafted to.
Well, and the thing too is that I just keep thinking about what you guys going back and forth is, I almost want to say, and I'm probably using this wrong, but like with the Warriors, it's all house money. Like, they could end up at 1 and be in the best situation. They could even end up here at 5, and it's still like, usually most teams, it's like, oh man, they bumped from 1 to 5. This is like a death sentence for them. But like, because they're the Warriors and they have such a stacked team, like, they can just go to 5 and it's like, whatever, OB or Big O, we'll go with either one and we'll still be fine. That even if they did get bumped, it would not hurt them or kill their draft, because they'd still be getting a top prospect for this team. I lean more towards Dave, where when Dave said they don't need the offense, that's true. They've got so many guys that can score. And if Big O can add some sort of defense down low so that guys can't just drive to the hole if they get past someone, well, fuck, they're not probably getting past Steph or past Clay, but they may get past Steph. Big O can be that rim protector for them. At 6, we've got, and this is what I love about this pick, we literally talked about this on the fast break when we talked about the Cavs. We said, what if they end up at 6? And we threw out a couple guys. Well, now we have it. The Cavs are at 6 in our mock. Each one of us has someone different. Sean has them going point guard. I have them going with Denny Abdia, like I said in the segment. Dave has them going with Obi Toppin. I'll start with this one. For me, if I'm the Cavs and I get bumped down to 6, I am just running it with the 2 guards I have. Denny Abdia, he's the guy that I add, kind of like almost the same reason you guys had for the Bulls, where it's like, I've got my 2 point guards. I'm going to bring it. Well, they already brought in their new coach. JB got locked down long term. I'm going to see what they can do under him, and I'm going to go ahead and get a 3 who can help me on the outside and can add something to this team. Sean, why did you have them go point guard, and who's getting bumped because of Killian Hayes?
We talked about this last week with the Cavs segment. I'm not sold that either guy. It's kind of sort of like the Hornets talk that we had with Devonta Graham and Terry Rozier. There isn't a true one on this team, and I think that with Garland and with Sexton, I think it's going to end up being Garland that gets bumped. Sexton, we saw in the last half of the season, really truly shine, but I don't think he shined as a one. I think the fact that Killian Hayes is 6'5" gives a different type of guard that they currently don't have. You can make the argument that Kevin Porter is there, it could be that type of player, but Kevin Porter is a typical two guard that's, 6'6". Killian Hayes is a 6'5" point guard that has incredible vision, incredible feel for the game, and incredible passing as well. So I think that if you add him to this team, it's going to improve Kevin Porter Jr., Colin Sexton, or Darius Garland's long-term abilities. And I think that Hayes as well, it was a little bit of BPA here. Mm-hmm. I didn't have Fdia. If Fdia was there, I'd take Fdia. Fdia's BPA. If I had Toppin there, I'd take Toppin. I think Toppin's BPA. But, both those guys are off. And then you either have to reach for a Kokoro or you have to take another center. It's possible that Andre Drummond stays with the Cavs. It's already highly likely that Kevin Love's going to be on that team. So then you're going to pick Onyeka Okongwu and bench him. Like I don't see the possibility of that happening. So really, it was a decision between Onyeka Okongwu and Killian Hayes. And I had issues with Okongwu that I've already talked about just previously with the Warriors, and I think Hayes gives them a type of guard that they don't have. And I think that it gives them clarity to their guard situation. And then it also gives them a piece that they could trade, because I don't think that I would be foaming at the mouth to keep Darius Garland on my team as a six-man. I'd be fine with moving him away and then getting different benefits and different assets, or possibly bringing in a three with Darius Garland. So I think Hayes is the best player available at this spot. And I think that he brings something to the Cavs that they desperately need.
And then Dave, you went in the line that J-Dub throws out. John, he said post player, and you're doing that with Obi Toppin.
I mean, he's not just a post player.
I mean, power. I think of him as a power forward. Maybe that's me limiting him.
Dude stretches. He shoots threes.
Mm-hmm.
He's big. He's a wang.
He's a post player.
It's Dave. It's a wang. It's that easy. John, I see you in there saying I'd go Carro. I did think about it, but I like the fact that I'm looking to fill out the rest of this offensive skill set because I think K-Love is not long for this team. So I love Kevin Porter Jr. I think he's going to be a stud. We talked about it again recently, but I think that Obi Toppin out there helps unlock this team. I'm not quite ready to give up on Garland as a point guard of the future. I think Sexton is just a fantastic scorer. Love him for that, but he needs to continue to develop his game and open his eyes, keep his head up on the court instead of just head down, go towards the basket or create for myself. But I think Obi Toppin is just head above Isaac Okoro as far as how complete of a player he is. Isaac Okoro still scares me with his shooting splits. The fact he's just a limited player still. He has great defensive instincts and potential, but I like Obi Toppin being one of the big guys on this team. So I definitely think there's a lot of room for him to impact them.
And the one thing that I will throw out that, I mean, obviously, I'm going to say we're getting robbed of because of everything going on. Like, there are guys that we've been looking at, like Obi Toppin would be one of them, where if his Dayton Flyers would have had a big March, would have gone far in the tournament, like, he's been a guy that we talked about where it's like he could be where I have him at 9, or he could fly all the way up to where Sean has him at 5. No pun intended with the fly thing. But now without March, like, I am really going to be keen and kind of focusing on what happens with Obi Toppin, because now the college basketball season's pretty much over. It's just going to be pro days and then the combine.
We don't even know if the combine's going to happen.
We don't even know if it's going to happen because of all this. So even, like, let's say the combine doesn't happen, this is scouts. Okay, this is the last thing we've got on this. How is it going to affect the draft stock of an Obi Toppin? And we kind of see the 3 reserves of, like, Sean's got him the highest, I've got him the lowest, Dave's got him right in the middle. And he's not the only one, but he's kind of the one
He could have had a Hunter-esque rise, and he could be going top, within that top 5. He could jump over Denny easily.
Yeah.
LaMelo Ball or Wiseman easily, just because you're the last guy we see play. If he can drag the Dayton Flyers to the Final Four on some incredible performances, easily could cement himself at the top of the draft.
And one thing too that we saw with Hunter that I think that we kind of won't be able to kind of see, I guess, with Toppin was with Hunter in that tournament, he ended up becoming their number 1 guy, at least offensively. And that was a wrinkle that we didn't see in his game. We always saw him as the perfect 3-and-D guy, but then we saw his game expand a little bit. Where Toppin, we've seen that this year. I don't think that there was too much that I was going to learn from Obi Toppin's tournament. I don't really know if I believe that. Maybe nationally he would have gotten more buzz, but if he had a great tournament, it wasn't like he was going to go top 3 for me. There was nothing really to change my mind for Toppin. I saw the player that he was. I think that he's really good. I think that he deserves to be top 7. And I think that, if the Cavs have the ability to take him, I don't think they'll hesitate unless, Denny Avdija is on the board.
And moving on, Soapy, we're moving on into his Pistons. And number 8, Sean's got point guard. I've got point guard. Dave has point guard. Pretty much we're all in agreement that they need a point guard. Mine's easy, so I'll just get my rationale out of there, and it might be the same as yours, but it's just take BPA. Take the BPA point guard. And for me, it was Tyrese Halliburton. I know that, the thing that was interesting for me here is I had the thought process of pretty much you've got 3 guys, Halliburton, Anthony, and Nico Mannion. Mannion's kind of fallen a little bit for me. I love him. I love his skill set, but I think he's falling down the boards the further we get in this draft process. And the thing that I kind of then had to think to myself is Tyrese Halliburton, who, yes, has the injury, shouldn't be a major injury, but still a wrist injury nonetheless. And then Cole Anthony, who, he is one of the big enigmas to me, because when we saw him at, it was the, what was the event? Let's see. I'll find the exact name. But we saw him coming out of college or coming out of high school, and we were enamored with him. Holy shit, this guy's going to be great. And then because of how UNC did this year, or how poor they did this year, he has kind of fallen. So for me, it was more of Halliburton or Cole Anthony, and going Halliburton over a Cole Anthony just because of how poor he has looked, and plus he had an injury this year. With you guys, is it the same thing? You're just going BPA point guard, and there was really not a lot of thought into this pick?
I'll take it, Dave, just because I think that they need that position. So even if they had the ability to take, Obi Toppin here, I'll use him. Because if Avdija was available, I think I'd go Avdija. But
because Obi Toppin's on my board, they could have taken Obi for me.
I wouldn't. I think you made the right choice to go guard here, because this is a team that does severely lack a guard. They just got rid of Reggie Jackson. They don't have a true number 1 in the long term. They have Derrick Rose, but he's there for a year. Bruce Brown was pretty decent in the games that he played, but I don't see him being a number 1 point guard. He's mainly a 2. He's played the 1 before. He had a couple of games where he had a triple-double too. So I wouldn't cap him as just a 2. But I would say that while Cole Anthony may have a low floor, I think he does have an extremely, extremely higher floor here. Did we skip the T-Wolves?
We did. We'll go back to the T-Wolves. That was me.
Okay.
I accidentally skipped them. Good catch there.
Just making sure. Because then I started looking, I was like, oh, I also had to deal with Halliburton already being off my board. But yeah, Halliburton was off my board. Halliburton was off my board, but even if I was picking between them, I think Halliburton doesn't really fit with the Pistons, because I think they need a scorer. They have Blake, obviously, but what's Blake's health going to be like? What's his long term in Detroit going to be like? And they have Kennard, but he needs a facilitator, which could then lead to Halliburton. But I also don't think they have a star. I think Anthony, if he's able to learn from D Rose and learn to be a better finisher around the rim, I think he could probably be the best scoring guard from this group. Tyrese Maxey might have something to say about that as well. But I think that at least point guard wise, Cole Anthony has the highest floor as a scorer, and I think that's what they need when drafting. So I went with Cole Anthony mainly because he was the best guard available at the time with Halliburton already going, but I also think that he probably fits their profile best.
Yeah, samesies pretty much. It's just Killian Hayes is my next best point guard on the board. And I think he can ball handle a little bit better than Halliburton can. So I think that the Pistons, as far as on-ball guy, he's a great fit. I do have him above Cole Anthony. And Cole Anthony, for me, as far as being an enigma, I agree. Like, he has his hot games. He ended the season on a horrible cold run, which is a real shame. But I really wish that we got to see the best out of him like we had done before he hit college. He was definitely something special. He has that it factor to his game, which I agree. Higher floor, or I'm sorry, higher ceiling, but a much lower floor than Killian Hayes in my mind. So I'm playing safe. I think Hayes will be an excellent player in the NBA. I think he can do a little bit of everything. So I'm taking him here.
And the event that I couldn't find, it was the Nike Academy, where he was super impressive at that coming out of high school, to where it's like, holy shit, this kid's going to be something special. But let's backtrack because Ricky's an idiot and skip the T-Wolves. Pistons were at 8, T-Wolves were at 7. I had a little bit of a conundrum here, and I kind of was talking to Sean about this, Dave, before you got on, kind of where we were testing how Sean was going to work out for today's podcast. Sure. Both of you guys have Tyrese Halliburton.
Yes.
Going with a backup point guard behind D'Lo. My thought process was this. I wasn't going to go point guard, who would have been Halliburton. He would have been my BPA point guard off the board here, because this team also has the 16th overall pick that I guess we can play into this, because we're not going to talk about the T-Wolves in 11 through 20, so we can mention that pick here. The net pick, I'm like, well, they could either get probably Trey Jones or Theo Maledon with that pick. Like, and that's not a reach to take Trey or Maledon at 16 in my mind. So I'm looking at it going, why not pass on a Halliburton? And then your choice either becomes, you go Obi Toppin, because he's probably the straight BPA on my board. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, technically they could use a wing, but like their 4 is totally kind of log jammed up now with Hernan Gomez, Spellman, Naz Reid, Jared Vanderbilt, to where I almost want the other side. I'm like,
and James Johnson.
And James Johnson.
He ain't turning down 16 mil.
No, he's not.
Played decently too.
He did.
He was not bad.
No, I just left him off. Didn't read his name. I went more of the 2 guard, where it's like RJ Hampton, fit him to basically be the one to, we're going to mold you into being next to D'Angelo Russell, and we'll get our backup point guard later.
I guess my question to you is...
Can I cut you off real quick?
Sure.
Did you know James Johnson's nickname is Bloodsport?
Hell yeah, Bloodsport.
What?
Bloodsport is James
great movie.
Nickname.
Great movie. Credit to him. It was just he had a weird season because the whole conditioning thing in the Miami situation played out the way it did. Ricky, why RJ over Tyrese? Because they're legit the same size. And Tyrese has shown to be a very good shooter. He can play off ball. He can move the ball around in offense. Like, is it just the upside of what RJ could be? Because I don't know.
That plays into it, because, I mean, with the whole RJ thing, the thing I love is that he could be the creating combo guard. And yeah, you might say, well, that might clash with a D'Angelo Russell. But like, I look at it and I go, he is, I'm going to say, the Cam Reddish of this draft in my mind, where Cam Reddish. No, wait, listen. I'm not saying exact player. I'm saying Cam Reddish was the guy that after the season was over, everyone was saying dark horse. He's the one that's going to be the dark horse. Even when he was drafted by the Hawks, there were people saying, like, watch out for Cam Reddish. He's going to be the dark horse. I think RJ could be that guy, to where so many people, draft pundits, have bashed on RJ Hampton and his game, to where he can come over and just basically shock the world. And that's what I see. Because when I was watching it, and yet again, highlights at the beginning of the season is a little bit different than now. Mm-hmm. When I was watching his highlights for the first draft we did, I was like, shit, I think I love RJ Hampton and what he can be to a team. He can drive, he can attack, he's got to work on his jumper. That's probably not the best thing he has is his 3-point shooting. Can work on that to become more consistent with it. Yep. And if he can be the thing that the T-Wolves, I know they don't have Thibodeau anymore, so you can't say that like, oh, the coach is going to get him on his defense. The only other thing he has to lock down in my mind is his defense. He needs work defensively. So like, I want more upside here because even at 16, I can get a guy like Trey Jones, who I had them pick, and get that backup point guard. And I just go double guard here, upside, and somebody who I know already what they are in Trey Jones.
But you know what Tyrese Haliburton is? He's a 6'5" guard who can pass, who can shoot, who can defend. Mm-hmm. He literally can do everything you're asking for, and he does it already at a very high level. He can play alongside D'Lo, or he can run a bench unit. He can split time with Malik Beasley out there, like Josh Cody. Like he to me is like the perfect fit. Like if I'm a Timberwolves fan right now, I'm like, fuck yes, we fucking got we solved our backcourt right now. You know, hopefully Malik Beasley, they're able to sign him to a long-term deal. He's played amazingly well for them this season. But I would absolutely attack Tyrese Haliburton at the top of this draft if I were them.
I agree with you, Dave. I have the question though. Where do you see Haliburton fitting in? Is he a second unit, or do you think he's a starter?
It entirely depends on that Beasley signing. If Beasley resigns, then he's definitely going to be running second unit. But here's the cool thing: is he can switch out for Beasley, or he can switch out for D'Lo. Like he literally could go either way. He could be a 1 guard or a 2. Doesn't matter. He's got the size to play against 2s. He's got the defense to play against 2s. But him being out there works really well. Also, it allows for Jarrett Culver to get his hands on the ball a little bit if he's not out. You know, you're not totally taking away Jarrett Culver's game. You're kind of limiting his growth there because he has been, he's at his highs and lows as a rookie.
The biggest issue that I have, because I would love to see Haliburton in this offense as a starter. I think the biggest issue is that, Haliburton or Beasley can't defend the 3. I would absolutely love to see that 3-man, and then they go super small. Then they start shooting a shit ton of 3s, because that's the thing I see.
They honestly could just do that. Yeah, I mean, not to. Fuck it. You're right. Just go 3 guards.
You look at D'Lo and you look at Beasley. They're not great creators. They can create in a little bit. They're not great passers.
You're not giving D'Lo enough credit. D'Lo's a really good fan.
All right.
He's really he really is. Did on the Warriors. Did on Timberwolves.
I'm gonna jump on that. Go ahead. That's fine. But even then, you're just adding a third passer out there that can shoot. And I think you just surround Cat with shooters. And yes. I think you already have that in Hernan Gomez. And I think I go off a little bit of the rails on this, and you stay on track with Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith at 16 makes a lot of sense, at least for the T-Wolves. It gives them a 4 or a 5 that can stretch out the floor and play next to Cat, but you also give them that spacing. I kind of killed with Precious. I went with the potential pick there, but still in the same mindset of, all right, we're going to play fast. We're going to move the ball up the floor. Precious is a guy that will be great in transition. Defensively, he'll be great as well. And then hopefully he can create defense and turn that into offense while running the floor. Extremely athletic kid. So I just look at this, and I think that their idea should just be playing fast, playing loose, and shooting as much as possible. And giving Haliburton then just frees up time and space for Beasley and Russell and Cat, and whether it be, Culver out there or whoever you may put out there at the 4. I think it just frees up this offense. And that's what I like. I think Hampton has the ability to do that as well. I think that he does have some ball handling skills to his repertoire. I like Haliburton a little bit more because I don't love D'Lo's ability as a 1 per se. I like him better as a 2.
Hampton is just unknown to me still, and I'm taking the for sure thing if I'm them. I'm not saying Hampton can't be a better player than Haliburton, because he absolutely can be, but I haven't seen enough. And meanwhile, Haliburton's got this track record going.
Well, let's move in. We got 2 more teams top 10. The Wizards, I want to go with a different kind of spin on this one, because for me it was easy. Obi Toppin's he's fallen far enough. You got to go BPA here. But both of you have Isaac Okoro. And the question that I was thinking is Okoro. The thing I was thinking is I have Okoro at 11 to the Spurs. Yep. In my 2.0, I had him at 13, where both of you had him in the top 10. In my 1.0, didn't even have him in my 1.0, where both of you guys had him at 23 to the Clippers at the time. Sell me on Isaac Okoro, and am I lacking for not having him in my top 10, although I have him just out at 11?
Sean, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think you are missing out here. You have him at 11, so it's not the biggest thing. Like, I could see your reasoning of having Obi Toppin over there, over Okoro. I think the biggest thing that I see in him is a true NBA body. I mean, he's going to walk in as a guy that can play physically already. He's 6'6", 225. He looks like an NBA player out there. He needs some refinement, but they've taken 2 players in the past 2 drafts that needed refinement, but you see the athleticism there, and it's enough. I mean, he is a great athlete. He's 6'6", 225. He's going to come in and already be able to attack the hoop and be a dynamic scorer. From 2-point range, he's shooting 60% there. I mean, he's a guy that can drive an attack. Might have a little bit of rub going, now with Bradley Beal and Rui Hachimura, but John Wall when he comes back too. A lot of those guys like driving. However, I think Okoro is just purely a potential pick here. I don't think there's a player, at least now at 9, and you may make the argument, at least looking at my mock draft, that Okongwu might have more potential, but I don't really think there's a player with more potential, at least on my board, especially at the wing position, than Isaac Okoro. Great body, already ready to play in the NBA. Needs to work on some stuff, but I do think at some point he can project to a plus shooter and be a natural 3, which they haven't had since they traded away Otto Porter Jr.
Yeah, I mean, he's a top tier slashing wing out there. He does not, his shooting motion isn't good. Not good. It's as nice as I can be about that from the outside. But you know what is the fact that he is just pesky. He is solid. He is good on defense. It's exactly what you want on the wing when you have 2 guys who are just going to get you buckets at the guard position. And then it looks like so far so good for Rui as a scorer. Troy Brown, good call, John. I mean, he's solid, but he plays a different game plan. He's, they're giving him run as like a part-time point guard out there, which I think is fun. So I like Okoro's potential. For me, it was close. I do have him as a toss-up with Devin Vassell. I think Vassell might project out better by the time I get to the next one. I've got to go back. Now I've got a bunch of time to watch the actual games. Now there's no new games. Thanks, coronavirus. But no, like they're very close in my mind. I don't know if Okoro is going to have that 3-point shot translate. If he could, that would absolutely lock him in. But right now, it's very close for
I think when I was talking about the closeness, I don't think it's close when we talk potential wise. Vassell is a very interesting player, and I think that ultimately he might end up fitting better against, alongside of Rui Hachimura and Beal and Wall. But potential, the athleticism of Okoro,
I get you,
is stupid.
He's just fun to watch.
He is truly a lightning bolt out there at 6'6", 225. And we talk so many times about athletic profiles and how they're pretty much unpassable. When you have the best athlete, that's likely the best pick. And right now he is the best athlete, and he does have basketball skill to go with it.
Yeah, and I was like, for me, the whole thing of also with Rui, where are you going to have, because both of us picking forwards here, ultimately, where are you going to have, because we've had the debate, is he a 3?
No.
Is he a 4? Where does he fit on this team? And that's where Dave jumps in right away saying he's not a 3. But we've had the debate.
A billionth time. No.
We've had the debate. I think he's got three in him, but he's more of a 4. Kind of like with the Obi Toppin, where that's the only thing I was like negative. I'm like, well, does Obi Toppin and Rui Hachimura's games overlap too much to where it's like they're almost picking the same player in back-to-back years.
Well, because Obi Toppin can handle the ball a little bit more than Rui Hachimura can, and he could shoot from the outside. So his game, it becomes more three-tiered than Rui Hachimura, who is mainly just a slasher. I think there's a lot more overlap when it comes to Okoro and Hachimura. I think the biggest difference just becomes size and then athletic potential. But even then, Hachimura is a great athlete. So I think there's probably more of an overlap between Okoro and Hachimura's game style than there is Toppin and Hachimura.
And then let's close things out. Number 10, the Phoenix Suns. And this is one that's been pretty much, I know, for mine, and the last one, did we all have Obi Toppin here last time? Yeah, we all had Obi Toppin here. The Suns were at 12 in the 2.0. Now they're at 10. The thing that I found weird, but then I went with it, was a lot of mock drafts have the Phoenix Suns going with a point guard. And there was a thought in my mind where I'm like, but they got their point guard. Like they've got, I know that you can say like they need a backup point guard, but like they've got Rubio, they've got Eli Okubo, and then the lower tiers of like Ty Jerome and Javon Carter on this team. The question that I will throw out to you guys to start before you, we'll go to Dave first, before you guys go into why you made your picks. Is it super important that the Suns at 10 get their backup point guard behind Ricky Rubio?
If I thought that, put him there. I didn't. I know Ricky Rubio is great, and I know their offense falls off a fucking cliff when he's on the bench. It's a problem for sure, but I don't know that I would give up a potential pick that I like better than, the next best point guard on the board for me. It's a bit of a fall to hit down to Cole Anthony. So I ended up going Devin Vassell here. I think that the idea that they do need a backup point guard, they're not wrong to think it. Eli Okubo has a long way to grow. Javon Carter, we've seen a couple points where he's looked like he could be, a feasible backup point guard, but he's still got a way to go. You need to get the guy to be the next guy to take over for Rubio. I don't know if that's Cole Anthony or not. So I went with the safer pick in my mind, and I'm getting yet another. You can't have too many Wang.
I think
and
Vassell's
J-Dub on the same boat.
On the same boat?
No, Dave and J-Dub, because J-Dub even said can't lose with Vassell.
No, I think Vassell's a smart pick here. I don't think they need a point guard at all. When I saw those point guard picks, I saw Nico Mannion there. I think I think it's
that's
the
Arizona
ridiculous
connection. That's the only reason why Mannion's gonna get mocked.
His 2-man game would be
smart.
insane, but no.
And I look at Anthony and I don't see him fitting. You're paying Rubio $17 million in the next 2 years. I think that he's a great fit on this team. And, Vassell is a smart pick. He's available on my board, but I think this is where the stop for Onyeka Okongwu comes. And I think that gives them then the ability and flexibility to move Ayton to the 4, which he's talked about before and being more comfortable. I think it is a possibility. Now he need to work on his outside game, and it seems like he's afraid to do that in the NBA. I don't know if that's a Suns directive, but we saw in college that he had the ability to stretch the floor, and we really haven't seen it too much, at least 3-point wise, from DeAndre Ayton. So I wouldn't really mess around with a point guard here. I'd take BPA. You get Onyeka Okongwu. You could have Ayton then slide to the 4. Offensively, I think it would work for him. And Onyeka Okongwu, we already talked about his upside defensively, and we've seen Ayton's upside defensively. So, if you have worries about Onyeka Okongwu's offense, well, you have fucking DeAndre Ayton there to score buckets. He's going to get 20 a night like he has been getting it, and it's going to be assisted by Ricky Rubio. I don't understand the guard angle here. The only issue I would have too with wings is the fact that you have Oubre and Mikal Bridges, but then again, I also abide by
Don't
the
forget
idea
about,
you can't have too many wings,
right? But also our favorite pick in the world from last year's draft,
Cam
Johnson. Cam.
Yup, Cam.
Fucking J-Dub got Cam.
But yeah, no, I think Okongwu, I think it'd be a great fit 5-wise next to Ayton there, and Vassell makes sense, but the point guard I'm not really buying.
Yeah, I just don't want to give up on Eli Okubo is the other thing. Like he's shown hope. You drafted him as a raw prospect who has a great scoring potential. Working with Rubio, you've got 2 European guys. Let them play together. He's got a great mentor. And by the time Rubio's contract's up, hopefully either he's the guy or you got to go extend Rubio or get another guy.
And I think the bright side too, Rubio's going to be 31 when he hits free agency. So if he really likes Phoenix, he ends up thriving there. I can see him having a somewhat longer career to 35. I don't think you are hamstringed, panicking. We need a future point guard. We need a future point guard right now. I think you're fine rolling with Rubio and waiting out to see where he is at the end of his contract. And then if you want to re-up him for 3 more years, I think that's definitely a possibility and one that I wouldn't write off.
Yeah, he's got a game that translates with age. Like, he's not going to fall off.
And before we wrap everything up, is there anything in the top 10 we missed?
Nope. 10 teams up, 10 teams down.
Well,
an hour and 42 minutes.
Yeah.
Sean's never going home. He's going to stay here till work.
The next 2 will be a little bit quicker than the top 10. But if you're on YouTube, make sure to let us know what you guys think down below. If you're a fan of any of these top 10 teams, let us know who you be picking. Do you like our picks? Do you not like our picks? Would you make a different pick? Let us know what you guys think down below.